guys, so here is the last part for 2.7 extension day 2. Once again, this is going to be a word problem that we're going to work on together here. So it says for this one, you have a summer job that pays time and a half for overtime if you work more than 40 hours. So that's what overtime is. Usually from either 0 to 40, that's your normal, and then anything over 40 is what we call overtime. After that, it is 1.5 times your hourly rate of $7 an hour. So that's your wage, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to write for a piecewise function. And we're going to, that gives your weekly pay P in terms of the number of hours of your work H, okay? So we're first going to write the equation that would make up for the 40 hours. Now what we're going to do is actually create an XY table to do so. There we go. But remember, we're using P and H. So we're using H for hours, and P of H is going to be the amount that we get paid, okay? So remember your hourly rate, wage, there we go, is $7 an hour, okay? So, like, for example, if we don't work any hours, right, do we get paid? No, we get $0, okay? Let's say we work 1 hour, though, right? So we work 1 hour, how much money should we get? We should get 7, okay? What about we work 5 hours? How much money should we get? Well, we should get 35, because for each of those hours, we're getting paid $7, okay? What about for 10? Hopefully you said 70. Let's go all the way up to the max that we can. It's going to be 40. So how much do we get? We get 280. Notice that in order to get our amount, right, we are multiplying everything by 7. Okay, now let's figure out how can we write this as an equation. Well, let's look at our H over here, this area. Which number stayed constant, meaning it stayed the same? It was our 7, right? But what numbers differed? Well, of course, it was the amount of hours we worked, and these are represented by H. So if I do 7 times whatever hours I work, that's going to give me my pay. So we're going to say 7H, okay? So that's going to be our first equation. So where it says, like, number 1, write an equation for what I would make up to 40 hours, that's going to be 7H. Okay, now I'm going to write an equation for what I would make when I work more than 40 hours. So remember, this is overtime here, okay? So once again, we are going to make a XY table. I'm just going to go ahead and extend this. Boop. There we go, okay? Now remember, when we go overtime, right, we actually don't make 7 hours anymore. We make 7 hours up to 40, but anything over it is at 1.5 times our pay. So overtime, each hour that we do overtime, okay, we're going to do 7 times 1.5, and that should give us, I think, $10.50. So actually, every hour that we work overtime, we make $10.50, okay? So I'm going to start back at, let's do at 40 again, okay? So I know if I worked all those 40 hours, I make $280, no matter what, okay? Now, do I have any overtime, because since 40 is our max? No, so I just make $280, that's it. But let's get to 41, right? This is where I now do overtime. Now, no, I will still make the $280 that I made from working 40 hours, but now I've worked 1 hour of overtime, so I make an additional amount. So remember, I make $10.50 for each hour of overtime. Well, let's think about this. How much overtime did I do? So what's the difference between 41 and 40? Well, that's going to be 1 hour. I worked 1 hour of overtime. So that should give me now 290.5. Okay? Okay, let's go up to 50 hours. So once again, since I worked 40 hours, I get the $280 pay. But for each hour I work over 40, I get $10.50. So let's think about 50, right? So how many hours did I work of overtime? So what's the difference between 40 and 50? Well, that's going to be 10. So for each of those hours of overtime, I get paid $10.50. So I get $385. Okay, let's go to 60. Okay, once again, I make $280 because I worked 40 hours. Then now for my overtime, right? How much hours did I work overtime? Well, from 40 to 60, that's 20 hours. And so from here, I make 490. Okay, now from this table, the green that we see here, we're going to go ahead and figure out, well, what's the equation of it, okay? So first things first, let's figure out what are the numbers that stayed constant. Well, the 280 stayed constant, right? The plus 1050 stayed constant. So I'm definitely going to have that in my equation. But now notice that the numbers in the parentheses, they did not stay constant. They changed, right? So we go from 1, 10, and 20. But how did that happen? Well, if we look, remember, we took our 41 and subtracted from 40. They gave us 1. We did 50 minus 40. That gave us 10. 60 minus 40. That gave us 20. Notice that we're always subtracting from 20. And then what that value is, the 41, the 50, the 60, that is represented by the hours that I worked. So I did the hours I worked minus 40, and that gives me my overtime hours. So now writing that, sorry guys, there we go. We have 280 plus 1050 times h minus 40. Okay, now we're going to put everything together and including our restrictions. So my first one is 7h. Remember that we talked about we can only go up to 40. So let's talk about our restriction. Well, if we go back to our table, that kind of helps us. Well, the lowest amount that we can work of hours is going to be 0. The highest amount of work that we can do is 40. And that's going to be when we get the hourly wage of $7. Okay? So that means I have 0, and that's included because I get $0. H, because that's our variable, and I go up to 40. Now we're going to do our second equation that we found. It's at 280. So I have 280 plus 1050, and then h minus 40. Now let's talk about what is this restriction going to be. Okay, if we look at our table here, right? Okay, we still got to start at 40 because if not, we have to think about what was all the amount between 40 and 41. So we got to start at 40. But really, did it tell us anything about there was a max amount of time? So like if we go back to our main problem, no, all it said was that if we worked more than 40 hours, we get 1.5 times our hourly rate. So that means when we write this, we're going to have h, and that's just going to be greater than 40. There's no max to that limit there, or an upper limit. It's just going to be h is greater than 40. Okay, if you have any questions on this, make sure you contact me. Make sure you work on the homework, and I will see you guys later.